The camera pans across the glittering Manhattan skyline at dusk, towers of glass and steel reflecting the dying light. Below, the city pulses with its relentless energy, yellow cabs honking, crowds surging through intersections, the mechanical heartbeat of ambition and power. The shot zooms in on one building in particular, Ashworth Tower, a gleaming obsidian monolith that rises 70 stories above Park Avenue, crowned with the golden letters, spelling out a name that means everything in American luxury and energy. Ashworth. Cut to a television screen flickering in a darkened apartment. A news anchor with perfectly coiffed hair and a somber expression stares into the camera, her voice carrying the practiced gravity of someone delivering tragedy to millions. Breaking news tonight from New York City. Victor Ashworth, the billionaire founder and CEO of Ashworth Global Holdings, has died unexpectedly at the age of 58. Ashworth, whose empire spans luxury hotels in Miami, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and the Caribbean, as well as major energy holdings across the Gulf Coast, was found unresponsive in his Park Avenue penthouse early this morning. The cause of death has not been disclosed, but sources close to the family say it was sudden and unexpected. The screen flashes to archival footage. Victor Ashworth stepping out of a black limousine, waving to cameras with the easy confidence of a man who owned half the skyline. Victor cutting ribbons at hotel openings. Victor shaking hands with presidents and governors. Victor, always Victor, larger than life, untouchable. Until now. The camera pulls back to reveal the apartment where the television plays. It's small, cluttered with textbooks and empty coffee cups, a graduate student's sanctuary. Standing before the screen, frozen in disbelief, is Sloane Ashworth, 25 years old with dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, wearing an oversized Columbia University sweatshirt and leggings. Her face is pale, her eyes wide and uncomprehending as she stares at her father's image on the screen. "No," she whispers. "No, no, no." Her phone buzzes on the coffee table, then again, and again. The screen lights up with notification after notification, missed calls, text messages, news alerts. She picks it up with trembling hands and sees her stepmother's name flashing across the screen. "Marissa calling," Sloane answers, her voice barely audible. "Marissa?" "Sloane, darling." Marissa's voice is smooth, controlled, with just a hint of manufactured emotion. "I'm so glad I reached you. I know you must have seen the news. I'm so sorry. Your father, he was everything to all of us." "What happened?" Sloane demands, her voice cracking. "The news said it was sudden. Was he sick? Why didn't anyone tell me he was sick?" There's a pause, just a beat too long. "He wasn't sick, sweetheart. It was his heart. The doctors said it was quick. He didn't suffer. I found him this morning when I came back from my morning yoga session. He was already gone." Sloane sinks onto the couch, her legs giving out beneath her. "I was supposed to see him next week. We were supposed to have dinner when I got back from my trip." "I know, darling, I know. That's why I need you to come home now. There are arrangements to make, and the lawyers need to speak with both of us. Can you catch a flight tonight?" Yes, I'll come." "Good. I'll send the car to pick you up from the airport. We're all in this together now, Sloane. Family takes care of family." The line goes dead. Sloane sits in the silence of her apartment, her father's face still frozen on the television screen, and something cold settles in her chest. Family takes care of family. The words sound wrong somehow, hollow and performative. But grief is a strange animal, she tells herself. Everyone processes it differently. She doesn't know yet how right her instincts are. She doesn't know that in less than 72 hours, someone will try to kill her. Before we dive in, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoy educational stories like this, be sure to like the video, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share it with someone who'd love it too. 3 days later, Sloane stands in the grand foyer of the Ashworth penthouse, a sprawling residence that occupies the entire top floor of Ashworth Tower. Floor-to-ceiling windows offer panoramic views of Central Park and the Hudson River beyond. The furniture is all clean lines and expensive minimalism, white leather sofas, abstract art, worth millions. A grand piano that nobody plays positioned artfully beneath a crystal chandelier. Everything is perfect, curated, cold. The funeral was that morning. Hundreds of people came, business associates, politicians, celebrities who'd stayed at Ashworth properties around the world. They all said the same things. What a loss, what a legacy, what a titan of industry. Sloane shook hands until her fingers went numb, accepted condolences until the words lost all meaning, and avoided looking at the closed casket that held what remained of the only parent she'd ever really known. Her mother died when she was 3. Victor raised her, or at least paid people to raise her while he built his empire, but he was there for the important moments. Her high school graduation, her acceptance to Columbia, her defense of her master's thesis in business management just 2 months ago. He was proud of her, she knew that. He told her she was going to be the one to take everything he'd built and make it even greater. Now he's gone, and she's standing in his apartment surrounded by people who feel like strangers. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention, please. The voice belongs to Gerald Whitmore, Victor's longtime attorney, a thin man in his 60s with wire-rimmed glasses and a briefcase that probably costs more than most people's cars. The family has asked me to conduct the reading of Victor Ashworth's last will and testament. If those named in the will could please join me in the study, we can proceed. Sloane follows Marissa and Gerald down the hall to Victor's private study, a wood-paneled room lined with leather-bound books and photographs from his various business ventures. Marissa sits in one of the wingback chairs arranged before Victor's massive mahogany desk, crossing her legs with practiced elegance. She's 42, blonde, beautiful in the way that requires a team of professionals to maintain. She married Victor 5 years ago after meeting him at a charity gala in the Hamptons. Sloane never warmed to her, but Victor seemed happy, so she kept her reservations to herself. Now, watching Marissa dab at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief, Sloane feels that same cold instinct from the phone call days ago. Something isn't right. Gerald opens his briefcase and removes a thick document bound in blue covers. Before we begin, I want to express my deepest condolences to both of you. Victor was not just a client, but a friend, and his loss is felt deeply by everyone who knew him. Thank you, Gerald, Marissa says softly. We appreciate everything you've done for this family. Gerald clears his throat and begins to read. The legal language is dense and convoluted, full of whereas and heretofore and in consideration of, but Sloane forces herself to focus. The first section deals with charitable bequests, $10 million to Columbia University, $5 million to various hospitals and arts organizations, $1 million each to several long-time employees. Then Gerald reaches the heart of the matter. To my beloved daughter, Sloane Catherine Ashworth. I leave the entirety of my shares in Ashworth Global Holdings, comprising controlling interest in the company and all its subsidiary corporations, properties, and assets, to be transferred to her upon the occasion of her 30th birthday, at which time she shall assume the position of Chief Executive Officer and Chairman of the Board. Sloane's breath catches. Controlling interest. Everything. Her father left her. Everything. Until such time, Gerald continues, the company shall be managed by an interim board of directors, with my daughter serving as a non-voting advisor. Upon her 30th birthday, which will occur in 4 years and 7 months, Full control reverts to her automatically. Marissa's handkerchief stops moving. Sloane sees her stepmother's jaw tighten almost imperceptibly, sees the way her knuckles go white where she grips the arm of the chair. To my wife, Marissa Ashworth, I leave the penthouse residence, the property in East Hampton, a trust fund of $20 million, and my gratitude for the companionship she provided in the final years of my life. $20 million. It sounds like a fortune, and it is, to most people. But compared to the multi-billion-dollar empire that just passed to Sloane, it's a pittance. It's an insult, carefully calculated and precisely delivered. Gerald looks up from the document. Are there any questions? Marissa's smile doesn't reach her eyes. No questions, Gerald. Victor's wishes are perfectly clear. She turns to Sloane, reaching out to squeeze her hand. Congratulations, darling. Your father always knew you were destined for great things. I'm so proud of you. The words are right, but they taste like poison. Sloane pulls her hand away, mumbling something about needing air, and escapes to the balcony. 30 stories below, the city sprawls in every direction, millions of lives intersecting and diverging in the grid of streets and avenues. Somewhere down there, people are living normal lives, worrying about rent and relationships and what to have for dinner. Simple problems. Human problems. Sloane has just inherited an empire, and all she feels is afraid. Behind her, through the glass door, she can see Marissa and Gerald still talking in the study. Marissa's mask has slipped now that she thinks Sloane can't see. Her face is hard, calculating. Gerald says something and Marissa shakes her head sharply, her voice rising, though Sloane can't make out the words. Then Marissa's eyes flick to the balcony, meeting Sloane's gaze through the glass. For just a moment, something ugly passes between them. Recognition, challenge, threat. Then Marissa's face smooths back into its practiced sympathy, and she gestures for Sloane to come back inside. Sloane shivers despite the warm spring air. 4 years and 7 months until she turns 30. 4 years and 7 months until she takes control of Ashworth Global Holdings. It seems like such a long time. She has no idea how much can change in just 4 days. The next evening, Marissa invites Sloane to dinner at the rooftop lounge atop Ashworth Tower. It's one of the crown jewels of Victor's empire, an exclusive restaurant and bar accessible only to residents of the building's luxury condominiums and their personal guests. The space is all dark wood and brass accents, with a retractable glass ceiling that's open tonight to let in the spring breeze. The city glitters below them like a field of fallen stars. They sit at a corner table away from the handful of other diners. Marissa has changed from her funeral black into a cream-colored dress that probably costs more than Sloane's entire wardrobe. She orders them both champagne without asking what Sloane wants. To new beginnings, Marissa says, raising her glass, and to honoring your father's legacy. Sloane touches her glass to Marissa's but doesn't drink. What did you want to talk about? Marissa sets down her champagne and folds her hands on the table, her expression shifting to something that might be concern if Sloane didn't know better. I wanted to talk about the company, darling, about what happens next. Gerald explained it. There's an interim board until I turn 30, and then control transfers to me. Yes, but that's 4.5 years away, Sloane. A lot can happen in that time. Markets shift, opportunities appear and vanish, competitors make moves. Your father built something extraordinary, but empires require constant vigilance to maintain. That's what the interim board is for. The interim board. Marissa's smile is patient, as if explaining something to a child. 5 men in their 60s who've been collecting director fees for the last decade, while your father made every real decision. They're caretakers at best, Sloane. They're not visionaries. They're not leaders. Sloane feels her spine straighten, that familiar flash of defensiveness she always gets when someone underestimates her. And you think you are? A leader? I think I understand this world better than you might imagine, Marissa replies smoothly. I've been watching your father navigate it for 5 years. I've sat in on strategy meetings, hosted dinners with investors and politicians, learned how these things work. And more importantly, I have something you don't have yet: immediate credibility with the people who matter. Banks, shareholders, partners, they need to see stability right now, not a promise of leadership 4 years down the road. What exactly are you suggesting? Marissa reaches into her handbag and withdraws a slim folder, sliding it across the table. I had Gerald draw up some paperwork. Nothing permanent, nothing binding. Just a temporary transfer of voting rights and operational authority until you turn 30. You'd still own everything, still be the ultimate beneficiary. I would simply manage things in the interim, make the day-to-day decisions, keep everything running smoothly until you're ready to take over. Sloane opens the folder, scanning the dense legal text. The words swim before her eyes: transfer of proxy, irrevocable assignment, sole discretion. You want me to give you control of my father's company. Our father's company, darling. He built it, but he built it for you. I'm just offering to keep it warm until you're ready. Think about it. You just finished graduate school. You've never worked in the industry, never managed people, never dealt with the pressures of running a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. Wouldn't it be better to have some time to learn, to prepare, without the weight of the entire operation on your shoulders? There's a logic to it, Sloane has to admit. She is young, inexperienced in the practical realities of corporate leadership, but something about the way Marissa's eyes glitter in the candlelight, the way her perfectly manicured fingers tap against the folder, sets off alarm bells in Sloane's head. I need to think about it, Sloane says, closing the folder. Talk to my own lawyers, understand exactly what this would mean. Marissa's smile tightens almost imperceptibly. Of course, darling. Take your time. But don't take too long. The board meets next week to discuss the transition plan, and it would be so much easier if we could present a unified front. I said I need to think about it. And I said take your time. Marissa's voice is still pleasant, but there's steel underneath now. Just remember that your father trusted me enough to marry me, to share his life with me. I would never do anything to harm his legacy. Or yours. The dinner ends awkwardly after that, Marissa making small talk about mutual acquaintances, while Sloane pushes food around her plate, her appetite gone. When they finally part ways in the elevator bank, Marissa kisses her on both cheeks, European style, her perfume cloying and too strong. Think about what I said, Marissa murmurs. Family takes care of family. There are those words again, and this time Sloane recognizes them for what they are. Not comfort, but threat. Back in her apartment that night, Sloane calls the one person she trusts in her father's circle, Evan Pierce. Evan started as Victor's junior legal counsel 15 years ago and worked his way up to become his most trusted advisor. He's 38, brilliant, and one of the few people in her father's orbit who ever treated Sloane like a person rather than an heiress. Sloane, Evan answers on the second ring. How are you holding up? Evan, I need your honest opinion about something. It's about Marissa. She hears rustling on the other end, as if he's sitting up straighter. What about her? She wants me to sign over temporary control of the company. Says it's just until I turn 30. Just to keep things stable. But something feels wrong about it. There's a long pause. When Evan speaks again, his voice is careful, measured. Sloane, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Don't sign anything Marissa gives you without having me review it first. Better yet, don't sign anything at all. Why? What do you know? I can't talk about this over the phone. Can you meet me tomorrow? There's something your father told me before he died, something I think you need to know. Sloane's heart hammers against her ribs. Evan, you're scaring me. Just tell me now. Tomorrow, he insists. My office, 10 a.m. And Sloane, be careful around Marissa. I mean it. The line goes dead. Sloane stares at her phone, a sick feeling spreading through her stomach. Be careful around Marissa. What the hell does that mean? She doesn't sleep that night. Instead, she lies in bed scrolling through news articles about her father's death, looking for details that don't add up. Most of the coverage is respectful, reverential even. Obituaries celebrating his business acumen, his philanthropic work, his rise from middle-class roots to the pinnacle of American capitalism. But buried in one gossip site, she finds something that makes her blood run cold. Sources close to the Ashworth family say tensions between Victor and his wife Marissa had been running high in recent months, with several staff members reporting heated arguments behind closed doors. One former employee, speaking on condition of anonymity, claims Victor was considering filing for divorce. Divorce. Sloane sits up in bed, her mind racing. If Victor divorced Marissa, she'd get nothing, or at least nothing compared to the settlement she'd receive as his widow. And if he died while they were still married, before any divorce proceedings began, she'd be entitled to whatever his will provided. $20 million is a lot of money, but is it enough to kill for? Sloane is so deep in her spiraling thoughts that she doesn't hear her phone buzz until the third ring. She grabs it without checking the caller ID. Hello? Sloane, darling, did I wake you? Marissa's voice is bright, cheerful, as if their tense dinner never happened. I hope not. I just wanted to let you know I've arranged a little trip for us. A chance to get away from the city, clear our heads, do some bonding. Just the two of us. A trip? Sloane's voice sounds hollow in her own ears. Where? Miami. Your father just finished renovating the Ashworth Grande there, completely rebuilt the South Tower, added a new spa, refurbished all the suites. I thought we could go inspect it together, make sure everything is up to his standards. It would be good for you to start familiarizing yourself with the properties anyway, wouldn't it? And the board would love to see that we're working together. Marissa, I don't think... I've already arranged everything, Marissa interrupts smoothly. Private plane leaves tomorrow afternoon. We'll be back in 2 days. Please, Sloane. I know things have been tense between us, but we're family now. Let me show you that I'm on your side. Every instinct Sloane has screams at her to refuse, to make up some excuse, to put as much distance between herself and Marissa as possible. But she thinks about Evan's cryptic warning, about the divorce rumors, about the way Marissa's eyes went cold when Gerald read the will. If something is wrong, if Marissa is dangerous, Sloane needs to know. She needs to understand what she's dealing with. Okay, she hears herself say, tomorrow afternoon, I'll be there. Wonderful. Marissa's delight sounds genuine, which somehow makes it worse. I'll send you the details. Pack light. Miami is beautiful this time of year. We're going to have such a lovely time together. After Marissa hangs up, Sloane immediately calls Evan back, but it goes straight to voicemail. She leaves a message. Evan, it's Sloane. Marissa wants to take me to Miami tomorrow on the private jet. I know you said to be careful, but I need to understand what's going on. I'm meeting you at 10, like you said. Please call me back. She tries his cell again. Nothing. She tries his office line. Nothing. Finally, at 3 in the morning, exhausted and terrified and not entirely sure why, Sloane sends him a text. If anything happens to me, investigate Marissa. Then she tries to sleep and fails completely. At 9:30 the next morning, Sloane stands outside Evan's office building in Midtown, clutching a cup of coffee she can't bring herself to drink. The building is one of those anonymous glass towers that house 1,000 different companies, lawyers and consultants and financial advisors, all working away behind identical doors. She takes the elevator to the 23rd floor and finds Evan's suite. The door is locked, the lights inside dark. The nameplate still reads Evan Pierce, ESQ, but there's no sign of life. "Can I help you?" A woman's voice makes Sloane jump. It's the receptionist from the office next door, standing in the hallway with a concerned expression. "Are you looking for Mr. Pierce?" "Yes, we had a meeting at 10. Is he running late?" The receptionist's face crumples with sympathy. "Oh, honey, you haven't heard. There was an accident last night. Mr. Pierce was walking home from a client dinner and got hit by a car. The driver fled the scene. He's at Mount Sinai in critical condition." The world tilts sideways. Sloane grabs the wall to steady herself. "What?" "I know, it's awful. The police are saying it was a hit and run, but honestly, in this city, who knows? People drive like maniacs. I'm so sorry if you two were close." Sloane mumbles something, she's not sure what, and stumbles back to the elevator. Her hands shake as she pulls out her phone. A hit and run. The night before, he was supposed to tell her something about her father, something about Marissa. The night after she told Marissa, she wanted to think about signing the documents. It's not a coincidence. It can't be a coincidence. She should go to the police. She should call someone, anyone, tell them what she suspects. But what does she suspect, really? That her stepmother tried to have her father's lawyer killed because he knew something? Based on what evidence? A feeling? Some gossip about marital problems? The police would laugh her out of the station. And she's supposed to get on a plane with Marissa in 4 hours. Sloane's finger hovers over Marissa's contact information, ready to cancel, to make up an excuse, to run as far and fast as she can. But then she thinks about her father, about the empire he built, about the trust he placed in her. If Marissa is behind this, if she had something to do with Victor's death, with Evan's accident, then running won't solve anything. Marissa will still be there, still maneuvering, still dangerous. Sloane needs proof. She needs to know the truth. And sometimes the only way to catch a predator is to act like prey. She sends Marissa a text. "Looking forward to Miami. See you at the airport." Then she goes home and packs a bag, trying not to think about the fact that she might be making the biggest mistake of her life. The private jet is a Gulfstream G650, one of 3 that Ashworth Global Holdings keeps for executive travel. Sloane has flown on it before, usually with her father for quick trips to inspect properties or attend important meetings. The interior is all cream leather and polished wood, with seats that recline into beds and a full galley where a flight attendant prepares meals on demand. Today there's no flight attendant, just a pilot and co-pilot up front, and Marissa waiting in one of the captain's chairs with a glass of white wine already in hand. "There you are," Marissa rises to greet her with air kisses. "I was starting to worry you'd changed your mind. Come, sit. Would you like a drink? Champagne? Wine?" "Just water," Sloane says, settling into the seat across from Marissa. She notices that the cabin door closes behind her with a heavy, final-sounding thunk. "Suit yourself. I find flying is so much more pleasant with a little liquid courage, but to each their own." Marissa takes a sip of her wine, studying Sloane over the rim of the glass. "You look tired, darling. Rough night?" "I didn't sleep well." "Grief will do that. I've barely slept myself since your father passed. The bed feels so empty without him." She sighs dramatically. "But that's why this trip will be good for both of us. A change of scenery, some sunshine, a chance to start moving forward." The engines roar to life. Through the window, Sloane watches Teterboro Airport sliding past as they taxi toward the runway. There's still time to stop this, to demand they let her off, to claim she's sick or scared or anything that would get her back on solid ground. But she doesn't. She buckles her seatbelt and watches New York fall away beneath them as they climb into the cloudless blue sky. For the first hour of the flight, Marissa keeps up a constant stream of chatter, gossip about people at the funeral, plans for the Miami property, suggestions for changes to the East Hampton house. Sloane nods along, giving minimal responses, her mind elsewhere. She keeps thinking about Evan lying in a hospital bed somewhere, about her father dying alone in his penthouse, about divorce rumors and temporary control and family takes care of family. Finally, somewhere over Virginia, Marissa's tone shifts. The pleasant mask slips just a little, revealing something harder underneath. "So," she says, setting down her wine glass, "have you given any more thought to our conversation about the transition plan? I told you I wanted to have my own lawyers review it. And I respect that truly. But Evan Pierce was your father's lawyer, wasn't he? I suppose you heard about his unfortunate accident?" The casual way she says it, unfortunate accident, sends ice down Sloane's spine. "I heard. Such a tragedy. Hit-and-run drivers are the worst kind of criminals. They do their damage and disappear into the night. No accountability, no consequences." Marissa's eyes are locked on Sloane's now, unblinking. The world can be a very dangerous place, especially for young women with more money than sense. There it is. The threat, barely veiled at all now. Sloane's heart pounds so hard she's sure Marissa can hear it. "What are you saying, Marissa?" "I'm saying that your father built something remarkable, and it would be a shame, a genuine tragedy, if anything happened to disrupt that legacy. If anything happened to you, God forbid. There are so many risks in this world. Plane crashes, car accidents, random violence. No one is ever truly safe. Are you threatening me?" Marissa laughs, but there's no warmth in it. "Threatening you? Darling, I'm trying to protect you. I'm trying to make sure you understand the reality of the situation you're in." She reaches into her bag and pulls out the same folder from the restaurant, along with a pen. She places them both on the table between them with deliberate care. "Sign the documents, Sloane. Transfer operational control to me until you turn 30. You'll still be the owner, still be the heiress, still be set for life. You'll just have 4 peaceful years to figure out what you want to do with all that money and power without the stress of actually running anything. Isn't that what you want? What any sane person would want?" Sloane stares at the folder like it's a coiled snake. Her mouth has gone completely dry, and the cabin walls seem to press inward, suffocating. She forces herself to meet Marissa's gaze, to keep her voice steady even as terror claws at her throat. "And if I don't?" Marissa's smile doesn't waver, but her eyes go flat and cold. "Then I suppose we'll find out just how dangerous this world can be for stubborn young women who don't know when to accept help." "You killed him." The words tumble out before Sloane can stop them. "You killed my father." For just a moment, Marissa's mask cracks completely. Her lip curls into something ugly, contemptuous. "Your father was a fool. He built an empire and then decided to throw it all away over some guilty conscience about climate change and sustainability. He was going to start divesting from the energy sector, can you imagine? Billions of dollars in assets, just abandoned because he suddenly grew a moral backbone in his late 50s. He was going to destroy everything he built, and for what? To impress a bunch of college activists? So you killed him." Sloane's voice is hollow, numb. Hearing it confirmed is somehow worse than suspecting it. "I saved his legacy," Marissa snaps. "And I tried to do this the easy way, Sloane. I really did. I thought we could work together, that you'd be smart enough to take the generous offer and live your life in luxury while I handled the complicated parts. But you're just like him, aren't you? Stubborn, idealistic, too stupid to understand how the real world works. She leans forward and Sloane sees the pilot's door is closed. Sees that they're somewhere over the Atlantic seaboard at 30,000 feet. Sees that there's absolutely nowhere to run. Here's what's going to happen, Marissa continues, her voice dropping to something almost conversational. You're going to sign those documents right now, and then you're going to have a tragic accident during our descent into Miami. A malfunction, a sudden depressurization, something technical that no one could have prevented. The pilots will testify that you were acting strangely, erratically. Grief does terrible things to people. You'll be mourned, your father's company will be mine to run as I see fit, and everyone will remember you as a poor, troubled girl who couldn't handle the weight of her inheritance. The pilots will talk, someone will investigate. The pilots work for me, darling. Do you think I'd risk this without ensuring everyone on this plane understands where their loyalty lies? And investigations can be managed, especially when you have enough money and the right connections. She pushes the documents closer. Sign. Sloane's hands are shaking so badly she can barely hold the pen. Her mind races through options, possibilities, escape routes. They're in a metal tube hurtling through the air at 500 miles per hour. Even if she could somehow overpower Marissa, where would she go? The cockpit door is locked, and even if it wasn't, she doesn't know how to fly a plane. She thinks about Evan, lying in a hospital bed because he tried to warn her. She thinks about her father, poisoned or suffocated, or however Marissa ended his life. She thinks about the empire he built, about the trust he placed in her, about the fact that if she signs these papers, every sacrifice, every dream, every hope he had for the future dies with her. No, she says quietly. Marissa's expression goes from cold to glacial. Excuse me? I said no. Louder now, stronger. I won't sign. You want my father's company? You're going to have to kill me for it, and when you do, everyone will know. Gerald knows what those documents say. Other people will ask questions. You won't get away with this. Won't I? Marissa stands abruptly, and Sloane sees her pull something from her jacket pocket, a small pistol, compact and efficient looking. I've already gotten away with it once, Sloane. Your father's death was ruled natural causes. No autopsy, no investigation, a little money in the right hands, and suddenly all the uncomfortable questions disappear. It'll be the same with you. She gestures toward the rear of the cabin with the gun. Get up. Move to the door. What? Sloane's voice comes out as a whisper. I said get up and move to the door. Now, or I'll shoot you right here, and we'll tell everyone you tried to attack me. Either way, you end up dead, but at least the first option is cleaner. This can't be happening. This can't be real. But the gun is very real, and Marissa's finger is on the trigger, and Sloane finds herself standing on legs that feel like water. Walk, Marissa commands, and Sloane does, one foot in front of the other, down the narrow aisle toward the emergency exit door at the rear of the cabin. Did you know, Marissa says conversationally, as if they are discussing the weather, that modern private jets have emergency exits that can be opened in flight? Not easily, of course. There are safety mechanisms, pressure differentials to overcome. But with the right tools and knowledge, it can be done, especially at lower altitudes where the pressure difference isn't as extreme. Sloane stops walking. Through the small window in the door, she can see clouds sliding past below them. You're insane? I'm practical. Marissa reaches past her and begins manipulating something on the door's control panel. Your father kept very detailed maintenance records. I know exactly how this door operates, exactly what altitude we need to be at, exactly how to make this look like a malfunction rather than murder. The intercom crackles to life. Mrs. Ashworth, we're beginning our descent as requested. Current altitude 20,000 feet and dropping. We'll be at 10,000 in approximately 8 minutes. Perfect, Marissa calls back. Thank you, Richard. She looks at Sloane with something almost like regret. I want you to know this isn't personal. In another life, we might have even been friends. But business is business, and your father's empire is worth more to me than one naive girl's life. They'll find my body, Sloane says desperately. The Coast Guard, rescue teams, someone will find me and they'll know what happened. Bodies that fall from 10,000 feet into the ocean tend to disappear, Sloane. The impact alone is fatal, and then the currents, the marine life. Nature has a way of cleaning up messes, and even if they do find something weeks or months from now, it'll be too late. I'll have had plenty of time to consolidate control, to restructure everything, to make sure your father's company is untouchable. The plane lurches slightly as they descend through a patch of turbulence. Sloane grabs for a handhold, her mind screaming for her to do something, anything. She could rush Marissa, try to grab the gun. But Marissa is standing just far enough away, the weapon trained steadily on Sloane's chest. 15,000 feet, the pilot's voice announces. Excellent, Marissa murmurs. She pulls a small tool from her pocket, some kind of specialized key, and inserts it into the door mechanism. Just a few more minutes, Sloane. Any last words? And in that moment, with death quite literally staring her in the face, Sloane's fear crystallizes into something else. Rage. Pure, incandescent rage at this woman who murdered her father, who tried to steal everything he built, who thinks money and connections make her untouchable. Yeah, Sloane says, I've got last words. When I survive this, and I will survive this, I'm going to destroy you. I'm going to expose every crime, every bribe, every dirty secret you've buried. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of monster you are. Marissa actually laughs. If you survive? That's a very big if, darling. 10,000 feet. The pilot announces. Marissa turns her attention to the door, working the mechanism with practiced efficiency. Sloane sees her chance, probably her only chance. She lunges forward, not at the gun but at the door mechanism itself, trying to jam the key, to break something, to prevent what's about to happen. Marissa is faster than she looks. She slams the butt of the pistol into Sloane's temple, and stars explode across Sloane's vision. She stumbles backward, tasting blood. Nice try, Marissa says coldly, but I'm done playing games. The door mechanism clicks. Warning lights flash red across the panel. An alarm begins to wail, deafening in the small space. Wind screams through gaps around the door seal as the pressure differential starts to equalize. 8,000 feet, the pilot calls, sounding alarmed now. Mrs. Ashworth, we're showing a door warning light. Everything's fine, Richard, Marissa calls back, her voice barely audible over the alarm. Just a malfunction. Keep descending. She grabs Sloane by the arm, her grip surprisingly strong, and drags her toward the door. The wind is getting louder, more insistent, as the seal continues to fail. Sloane tries to fight back, clawing at Marissa's face, kicking at her legs. But Marissa is driven by something beyond reason now. Greed, rage, the desperate need to eliminate a threat. 7,000 feet. With one final wrench, Marissa activates the emergency release. The door blows outward, and suddenly the world is nothing but wind and noise and terror. The cabin depressurizes in an instant, everything not secured flying toward the opening. Sloane grabs for a seat, for anything, but Marissa is still holding her arm, pulling her toward the gaping void. Goodbye, Sloane, Marissa screams over the wind. Say hello to your father for me. And then she shoves hard, and Sloane is falling. The shock of it steals her breath, one moment inside the plane, the next tumbling through empty air, the ocean impossibly far below, and yet rushing up to meet her with terrible speed. The wind tears at her clothes, her hair, her skin. She's spinning, disoriented, unable to tell up from down or which way the water is. Her mind, detached from the screaming terror of her body, processes information with strange clarity. 7,000 feet. That's about a minute of free fall, maybe less. Impact with water at terminal velocity is the same as hitting concrete. Unsurvivable. She's going to die. Her father's face flashes through her mind, smiling at her graduation. Evan in his office, telling her to be careful. The Ashworth name on buildings across the country, an empire built on ambition and now stained with blood. The ocean is blue-green and beautiful from up here, stretching to the horizon in every direction. Sloane catches a glimpse of land far to the north. Florida, probably. The Keys, maybe. Chains of islands trailing into the sea like a broken necklace. 4,000 feet. 3,000. The wind screams past her ears, and then she hits the water. The impact is like hitting a brick wall, every bone in her body rattling with the force. The breath is knocked from her lungs, and for a moment she can't tell if she's alive or dead, awake or unconscious, drowning or breathing. Everything is green-blue chaos, bubbles and pressure, and the terrible weight of water pressing down on all sides. Her body acts on instinct, limbs flailing upward, or what she thinks is upward, toward lighter water, toward air, toward life. Her lungs burn. Her vision is dimming at the edges. Just a little further. Just a little more. She breaks the surface, gasping, choking, somehow miraculously still alive. Around her, the ocean stretches empty and vast, no plane visible in the sky, no sound except wind and waves. She's alone in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, miles from land, with no way to signal for help, and no guarantee that anyone is even looking for her. Marissa will tell people she died, will file reports, hold another funeral, play the grieving stepmother once again. Within hours, Sloane's death will be news. Tragic accident. Another member of the Ashworth family lost too soon. She should give up, should let the water take her. It would be easier, kinder even, than swimming toward land she can't see and may never reach. But then she thinks about Marissa's face as she shoved her, the cold satisfaction in her eyes. She thinks about her father, about Evan, about everyone Marissa has hurt, or will hurt, if no one stops her. Sloane Ashworth is 25 years old, heir to a multi-billion-dollar empire, and she has just survived murder. She'll be damned if she's going to drown now. She starts swimming. Time loses meaning in the water. Minutes bleed into hours, bleed into an eternity of salt and sun and exhaustion, so profound it transcends pain. Sloane's arms move mechanically, her legs kick weakly, her head barely stays above water. She knows she should rest, should float on her back and conserve energy. But every time she stops moving, she starts to sink, and the terror of drowning drives her forward again. The sun climbs higher, then begins its descent. Her lips crack and bleed from salt exposure. Her muscles scream. She swallows water and vomits it back up, swallows more, a vicious cycle that drains what little strength she has left. At some point, she stops thinking about Marissa or revenge or empires. She stops thinking about anything except the next stroke, the next breath, the next moment of not drowning. The sun is setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, when she sees it, land. An island, small and low and close, maybe a quarter-mile away. She doesn't let herself hope, doesn't let herself believe it's real until her feet touch sand, and she's crawling out of the surf onto a beach, collapsing face first into the warm ground, and sobbing with relief. She has no idea where she is. The island seems uninhabited. Just beach and scrub vegetation and mangroves. No buildings, no boats, no signs of human life. But it's land, solid ground, not drowning. Sloane drags herself further up the beach, past the tide line, and lies there as darkness falls and stars emerge overhead. She should make a fire, should look for fresh water, should do any of the 100 things a survivor is supposed to do. but her body has reached the absolute limit of its endurance. Sleep claims her before she can do anything but close her eyes and surrender to it. She wakes to voices speaking Spanish. For a moment she thinks she's dreaming or hallucinating, but then strong hands are lifting her, carrying her, and she forces her eyes open to see two men, brothers maybe, similar features, both tan and weathered from sun and wind, looking down at her with concerned expressions. "Está viva," one of them says. "Luis, ella está viva." "Lo sé, Mateo. Cuidado, be careful. Quien sabe what happened to her." They carry her to a small boat pulled up on the shore, laying her gently in the bottom. One of them, Luis, drapes a blanket over her while the other, Mateo, starts the outboard motor. "Where?" Sloane's voice is a croak, barely recognizable. "Where am I?" "Pequeña Cayo near Key Largo," Luis tells her in accented English. "We were checking our traps, saw you on the beach." "What happened? Your boat sink? You swim from somewhere?" Sloane's mind races. What can she tell them? That her stepmother pushed her out of a plane, that she's supposed to be dead, that if word gets out she survived, Marissa will just try again? "Accident," she manages. "Can't. Need to hide. Someone's after me." The brothers exchange glances. Mateo cuts the motor for a moment, letting the boat drift. "You in trouble with ley migra?" "Immigration?" he asks. "Because we don't get involved in that." "No, not immigration." "My family. They tried to kill me." Another look between the brothers, longer this time. Finally, Luis nods. "We take you to our place. You rest, get strong, then you tell us everything, and we figure out what to do. Okay?" Sloane nods, too exhausted to argue, and closes her eyes again as the boat speeds toward Key Largo. The Rivera brothers live in a small house on stilts over the water, weathered wood and rusting screens that speak of generations spent working the sea. Their dock is cluttered with crab traps, fishing nets, and buoys in various states of repair. Inside, the house is cramped but clean, smelling of salt water and coffee and the lingering spice of last night's dinner. Luis's wife, Rosa, takes one look at Sloane and immediately starts issuing orders in rapid Spanish. Within minutes, Sloane is in a makeshift shower, just a hose rigged to a water tank on the roof, washing away layers of salt and blood. Rosa provides clean clothes, several sizes too large but dry and soft. She feeds Sloane rice and beans and strong sweet coffee, not asking questions, just watching with the patient concern of a woman who has seen trouble before and knows better than to rush its telling. It's only after Sloane has eaten and drunk and stopped shaking that Luis and Mateo sit down across from her at the small kitchen table, their faces serious. "Now," Luis says, "you tell us what happened." "All of it." So Sloane does. She tells them about her father's death, about the will, about Marissa's threats and demands. She tells them about Evan's hit and run, about the plane and the gun and the ocean. The words spill out in a torrent, and saying them out loud makes them simultaneously more and less real. Distant, like they happened to someone else, but also concrete, undeniable, true. When she finishes, the brothers sit in silence. Rosa has stopped washing dishes and is staring at Sloane with wide eyes. Finally, Mateo speaks. "This woman, she really pushed you from a plane?" 7,000 feet, Sloane confirms. "I shouldn't be alive. The impact should have killed me." "But it didn't." Luis's voice is soft, almost reverent. "Dios was watching over you. You survived for a reason. Or just dumb luck." Sloane laughs, but it comes out bitter, exhausted. "Either way, I'm alive. And Marissa thinks I'm dead, which means I have maybe 48 hours before she realizes no body has been recovered and starts looking for me." "What will you do?" Rosa asks. "I need to get back to New York. I need proof of what she did, to my father, to Evan, to me, and I need to expose her before she can consolidate control of my father's company. Sloane looks at the three faces watching her, these strangers who saved her life and are now harboring her like some kind of refugee. I'm sorry to bring this to your door. If it's too dangerous, if you need me to leave, you're not going anywhere yet, Louise interrupts firmly. Look at yourself. You can barely stand. You need rest, time to heal, time to think. And then we help you figure out the next step. Why would you do that? You don't even know me. Matteo shrugs. You know how many people from the city come down here in their fancy boats, treat us like servants, like we're invisible. Your father wasn't like that. When the hurricane hit 3 years ago, destroyed half the docks, it was Ashworth Foundation money that helped rebuild. Your father's foundation. He helped people who needed it, people the government forgot about. So now we help his daughter, Louise finishes. It's that simple. Tears prick at Sloane's eyes, the first she shed since hitting the water. These people owe her nothing, risk everything by sheltering her, and yet here they are, offering help without hesitation. It's the first genuine kindness she's experienced since her father died. Thank you, she whispers. I don't know how to repay you. You survive, Rosa says simply. You stop this bad woman. You make your father proud. That's payment enough. They set her up in a small guest room, more of a closet, really, with a narrow bed and a window that looks out over the water. Sloane sleeps for 14 hours straight, her body finally allowed to shut down and begin the process of healing. When she wakes, it's late afternoon the next day. She emerges from the room to find Louise watching a small television in the living room, the volume low. He sees her and quickly mutes it, but not before Sloane catches a glimpse of her own face on the screen, her Columbia graduation photo, the one that ran in the society pages when her father announced she'd be joining the company. What are they saying? She asks, her voice still rough. Louise hesitates, then unmutes the broadcast. A news anchor with perfect hair and a practiced expression of sympathy speaks to the camera. The tragedy continues for the Ashworth family tonight, as officials confirm that Sloane Ashworth, 25, daughter of the late Victor Ashworth, is presumed dead following an accident aboard a private aircraft yesterday afternoon. According to Marissa Ashworth, who was piloting the plane with Sloane, a door malfunction occurred during descent, resulting in sudden cabin depressurization. Despite Mrs. Ashworth's heroic efforts to save her stepdaughter, Sloane was tragically pulled from the aircraft. Coast Guard crews have been searching the waters off the Florida Keys, but officials say the chances of recovery are minimal. The screen cuts to Marissa, standing before a bank of microphones, her face a perfect mask of grief. She wears black, simple and elegant, her hair pulled back, her eyes red-rimmed as if from crying. Sloane was like a daughter to me, Marissa says, her voice breaking at exactly the right moment. Losing Victor was devastating, but losing her, too. It's more than any family should have to bear. She was brilliant, compassionate, everything her father hoped she would be. The world has lost someone truly special. Mentirosa, Rosa hisses from the kitchen doorway. Liar. A reporter calls out a question. Mrs. Ashworth, there are rumors that you and Sloane had disagreements about the management of Ashworth Global Holdings. Can you address those? Marissa's expression shifts to something between pain and disappointment. Sloane was grieving. We both were. Of course, there were tensions, difficult conversations about the future. But we were family. We loved each other. Anyone who suggests otherwise is being needlessly cruel during an already impossible time. Will you be taking control of the company now? That's the last thing on my mind right now, Marissa says, though Sloane can see the calculation behind her eyes. My only concern is honoring Victor and Sloane's memory. But yes, In order to maintain stability and protect the legacy they built, I will be assuming operational control of Ashworth Global Holdings, as specified in Victor's succession plan. The board has already voted unanimously to support this transition. That fast? Sloane breathes. It's been less than 24 hours. She had it planned, Louise says grimly. Every step. She knew exactly what she was doing. The broadcast cuts to a financial analyst discussing the implications for Ashworth's stock price, but Sloane has stopped listening. Her mind is racing, processing the magnitude of what she's seeing. Marissa isn't just getting away with murder. She's being celebrated for her courage and grace under pressure. She's positioning herself as the grieving widow and stepmother, the responsible steward of a fallen empire, the victim of cruel circumstances rather than their architect. And without proof, without evidence, Sloane is just a ghost. Even if she reveals herself, even if she walks into a police station and says, "I'm alive. My stepmother tried to kill me," who would believe her? Marissa has already laid the groundwork. Troubled girl, grief-stricken, probably suffering some kind of breakdown. Any accusations Sloane makes will be dismissed as the ravings of someone who can't accept reality. She needs proof. She needs something concrete, undeniable, something that will make Marissa's careful narrative collapse. "I need to get back to New York," Sloane says, "but I can't do it as myself. The moment Marissa knows I'm alive, I become a target again, and this time she won't make the mistake of letting me survive." "So what do you do?" Matteo asks. He's been standing in the doorway, listening quietly. "I need to talk to someone I trust, someone who can help me get evidence against her." Sloane thinks of Evan, lying in a hospital bed. She has no idea if he survived, if he's awake, if he can help. But he told her to be careful around Marissa, which means he knew something, suspected something. Whatever Victor told him before he died might be the key to everything. "Can I use your phone?" she asks Louise. "I need to check if someone is still alive." He hands it over, and Sloane pulls up the Mount Sinai Hospital website, navigating to the patient directory with shaking fingers. She types in Evan's name and holds her breath. The result comes back. Pierce. Evan, ICU, stable condition, no visitors. He's alive. Relief floods through her so intensely she has to sit down. He's alive and he's stable, which means he can talk, can tell her what he knows. "I need to get to New York," she says again, "but I need to do it without being seen. No plane tickets, no credit cards, nothing that would leave a trail." "My cousin drives a delivery truck," Matteo offers. "Goes up the coast, makes stops in Savannah, Richmond, all the way to New Jersey. He could hide you in the back, get you there in a couple of days." "That's perfect." Sloane looks at the three people who have saved her life in more ways than one. "I don't know how I'll ever repay you for this." "You be careful," Rosa says fiercely, crossing herself. "You don't let that woman win. You make her pay for what she did." "I will," Sloane promises. "I swear to God I will." 2 days later, Sloane climbs out of a delivery truck in Jersey City, stiff and sore, and desperately grateful to be back on her home territory. Matteo's cousin, a taciturn man named Carlos, who asked no questions and offered no commentary, drops her at a bus stop and drives away without a backward glance. She's wearing clothes Rosa gave her, jeans, a plain t-shirt, a baseball cap pulled low over her face. She looks nothing like the polished graduate student in the photos circulating online. She looks like what she is, a survivor. Her first stop is a drugstore, where she buys a burner phone with cash. Her second is a small electronics store, where she purchases a cheap laptop. Then she finds a coffee shop with Wi-Fi and settles into a corner booth. Her back to the wall, her eyes on the door. She creates a new email address under a fake name and sends a message to the one person she knows will check his email even from a hospital bed. "Evan, I'm alive. Don't reply to this. Don't tell anyone. Meet me at the place where we celebrated my graduation, tomorrow noon. Come alone and make sure you're not followed. S. She sends it and closes the laptop, hoping Evan will understand. They celebrated her graduation at a small Japanese restaurant in the East Village, a place Victor loved because nobody bothered him there, where the owner greeted them like family. If Evan remembers, he'll know where to go. The rest of the day, Sloane spends in libraries and coffee shops, moving every few hours, always watching for anyone who might be following her. She researches everything she can find about her father's death, about Marissa's background before she married Victor, about the structure of Ashworth Global Holdings. What she finds is disturbing. Marissa's past is carefully curated, almost too perfect. She claims to have worked in marketing for various luxury brands, but Sloane can't find any concrete evidence of employment. Her social media presence only goes back 7 years, right around the time she would have met Victor. It's as if she didn't exist before that, or as if someone went to great lengths to erase her previous existence. Sloane also discovers that Marissa has moved fast. In just 2 days, she's already replaced 3 key executives at Ashworth Global Holdings with her own people, consultants and advisors who worked for her previous employers, though Sloane still can't confirm who those employers actually were. The board of directors has been completely compliant, rubber-stamping every decision. It's a hostile takeover dressed up as stewardship, and Sloane is the only one who sees it. The next day, she takes 3 different subway lines to get to the East Village, doubling back twice to make sure she's not followed. She arrives at the restaurant 30 minutes early and positions herself across the street where she can watch the entrance. At noon exactly, a black town car pulls up. Sloane tenses, ready to run, until she sees Evan climb out. He's thinner than she remembers, moving carefully as if everything hurts, one arm in a sling. But he's alive and walking, and when he enters the restaurant, she gives him 5 minutes before following. He's sitting in a booth at the back, exactly where they sat with her father 3 months ago. When he sees her, his face goes through a rapid succession of expressions: shock, disbelief, relief, fear. "Jesus Christ," he breathes as she slides into the booth across from him. "Sloane, everyone thinks you're dead." "I know. That's kind of the point." She keeps her voice low, her eyes on the door. "Are you sure you weren't followed?" "I took precautions." "But Sloane, what the hell happened? The news said—" "Everything the news said is a lie. Marissa pushed me out of a plane, Evan. She tried to murder me, just like she murdered my father." Evan goes very still. "You're sure? About your father?" "She confessed, right before she shoved me out the door at 7,000 feet. Sloane leans forward. "You tried to warn me. You said my father told you something before he died. What was it?" Evan glances around the restaurant, making sure no one is close enough to overhear. "Victor came to my office 2 weeks before he died. He was scared, Sloane. Really scared. He said he'd made a terrible mistake marrying Marissa, that he'd discovered she wasn't who she claimed to be. He wouldn't give me details, said it was too dangerous, that he needed to gather more evidence first, but he had me draft a new will, one that would protect you if anything happened to him. A second will, more detailed than the first. It specified immediate transfer of control to you upon his death, with ironclad provisions preventing anyone else from claiming authority. No waiting until you turned 30, no interim board, nothing. Just a clean transfer to you, with me as trustee to help you manage things until you were ready. Where is this will? That's the problem. Evan's face is grim. Victor kept the only copy in a safe in his office at Ashworth Tower. He said he'd give me a copy once he had the evidence he needed against Marissa, but he died before that happened. I tried to access it after the funeral, but Marissa had already changed all the security codes. I couldn't get into his office. So the proof is there, in his office, along with whatever evidence he had about Marissa. if she hasn't already destroyed it. She doesn't know it exists, Sloane says, more confident than she feels. If she did, she would have destroyed it immediately. She thinks the will Gerald read is the only one, and she thinks I'm dead, which means she feels safe. That's our advantage. Our advantage. Evan shakes his head. Sloane, you can't be thinking about breaking into Ashworth Tower. The security is... I'm not thinking about it. I'm going to do it, tonight, and you're going to help me. This is insane. If Marissa catches you, then she'll try to kill me again, and this time I'll make sure there are witnesses. Sloane reaches across the table and grabs his hand. Evan, she's taking everything my father built. In a week, she'll have replaced every person loyal to him. In a month, she'll have restructured the entire company. If we don't stop her now, we'll never be able to. Evan is quiet for a long moment, his face working through a dozen different emotions. Finally, he nods. Okay, but we do this smart. We get in, we get the evidence, we get out. And then we go straight to the authorities with everything. Agreed. Sloane pulls out her burner phone. Now tell me everything you know about the security at Ashworth Tower, because we have about 10 hours to plan a break-in. They spend the afternoon in a different coffee shop, Evan sketching out the layout of the tower's upper floors, explaining the security systems, identifying potential vulnerabilities. The tower is state-of-the-art, of course. Keycard access, cameras everywhere, security guards on patrol. But Evan still has his executive access card, which will get them into the building and up to the executive floors. Once there, they'll need to get past Victor's private office door, which requires a code only he knew. Unless, Sloane realizes, he shared it with his daughter. Try my birthday, she tells Evan. Month, day, year. That was his password for everything. They wait until 11 p.m., when the building is mostly empty except for security and the occasional workaholic burning the midnight oil. Evan's car, its front bumper still dented from the hit and run, pulls up to the employee entrance at the back of Ashworth Tower. Sloane is wearing a business suit Rosa somehow procured. Sloane didn't ask how, and has her hair pulled back, hoping to look like just another young executive working late. Evan's keycard works. The door clicks open, and they slip into the building's service corridor, avoiding the main lobby with its cameras and guards. They take the service elevator up to the 68th floor, where Victor's office suite occupies a corner of the building with views of Central Park. The corridor is dark, lit only by emergency lighting. Sloane's heart pounds so hard she's sure Evan must be able to hear it. Every shadow looks like a security guard, every sound like footsteps approaching. They reach Victor's office door. Evan pulls out a small toolkit. I picked up a few skills in my younger days, he explains with a grim smile, and begins working on the lock while Sloane watches the hallway. Got it, Evan whispers after what feels like hours but is probably only minutes. The door swings open and they slip inside. Victor's office is exactly as Sloane remembers it. Massive desk, leather chairs, walls lined with photographs of properties he developed and people he knew. But everything feels different now, haunted by his absence. Sloane has to swallow back tears as she crosses to the desk where her father sat so many times, making decisions that shaped skylines and economies. The safe is behind that painting, Evan says, pointing to a large abstract canvas on the wall. But I don't know the combination. Sloane moves to the painting and swings it aside, revealing a digital safe with a numeric keypad. Her birthday didn't work for the door, so she tries other significant dates. Her mother's birthday, her parents' anniversary, the day Ashworth Global Holdings was incorporated. Nothing. Think, Sloane, Evan urges. What was important to him? What would he use as a code? And then it hits her. The day he got sober, the day he turned his life around and started building the empire that would define him. He talked about it sometimes in quiet moments. July 14th, 1991. Bastille Day, he called it, his personal Independence Day. She types in Yo71491 and holds her breath. The safe clicks open. Inside are folders, documents, a small black external hard drive, and most importantly, a sealed envelope with her name written on it in her father's handwriting. Sloane, it reads, if you're reading this, I'm dead, and I'm sorry. I brought danger into our lives and I couldn't protect you from it. But I can give you the tools to protect yourself. Everything you need is in this safe. The will, the evidence, the truth about Marissa. Use it well. Make me proud. I love you, Dad. Tears blur her vision, but Sloane blinks them away and starts gathering documents. The new will is there, dated 2 weeks before Victor's death. But there's more. Surveillance footage from the penthouse security cameras showing Marissa tampering with Victor's medication. Medical records documenting the symptoms of digitalis poisoning, with notes in Victor's handwriting. She's been doing this for weeks. I was a fool. Financial records showing payments from Marissa to offshore accounts, including one that matches the account of the driver who hit Evan. It's all here. Everything they need to destroy her. We need to go, Evan says urgently. Now, before. The office lights blaze on, blindingly bright. Sloane spins around to find Marissa standing in the doorway, flanked by 2 large men in security uniforms. She's smiling, but there's nothing warm in it. Hello, Sloane, Marissa says pleasantly. I have to admit I'm impressed. Surviving a fall from 7,000 feet is quite the accomplishment. I underestimated you. How did you know? Sloane demands. I didn't. Not for certain. But a body should have washed up by now, and when it didn't, I started to wonder. So I put extra security on the tower, cameras in places there weren't cameras before. And when Dr. Pierce here accessed the building, using his presumably revoked keycard, well, that was all the confirmation I needed. The card should have been deactivated, Evan says quietly. You knew we'd come. I suspected. And I hoped. Marissa steps into the office, the security guards moving with her. Because loose ends are so untidy, don't you think? Better to clean them up all at once. The evidence is right here, Sloane says, holding up the folders. Everything my father documented about what you did. You can't kill us both and make it disappear. Can't I? Marissa's expression doesn't change. You're a mentally disturbed young woman who faked her own death and broke into her family's building with a man who's clearly been helping you. When security confronted you, you attacked them, and tragically, you fell from the window during the struggle. Such a sad ending to such a sad story. The hard drive is encrypted, Evan says suddenly. You'll never access it without Sloane, and if she dies, it gets automatically uploaded to every major news outlet. Victor set it up as insurance. It's a complete bluff. Sloane has no idea if the hard drive is encrypted or contains anything at all. But Marissa's eyes narrow. You're lying. Try me, Sloane challenges. Kill me. And my father's lawyer, the one I gave a copy of everything to before coming here tonight, will release all of it. Videos, financial records, documents proving you poisoned Victor, paid to have Evan killed, tried to murder me. Your face will be on every screen in America by morning, and all your money and connections won't save you. She has no such lawyer, has made no such arrangements. But Marissa doesn't know that. And for the first time since she pushed Sloane from that plane, uncertainty flickers across her face. Mrs. Ashworth, one of the security guards says, maybe we should... A voice cuts through from the hallway. Nobody moves. NYPD. Detective Reed Dalton steps into view, his weapon drawn, his badge held high. Behind him are 4 uniformed officers, moving quickly to secure the room. Marissa's face goes from uncertain to furious in an instant. What is this? I called for security, not police. Funny thing about that, Reed says, holstering his weapon as the officers begin handcuffing Marissa's security guards. When Dr. Pierce contacted me earlier today and told me about a potential murder conspiracy, I was skeptical. Rich people problems aren't usually my jurisdiction. But then he showed me some preliminary evidence and I got curious. Curious enough to get a warrant. Curious enough to have been listening to this entire conversation through the wire Dr. Pierce has been wearing. Evan pulls aside his collar to reveal a small microphone taped to his chest. I'm sorry for lying about the hard drive and the lawyer, he says to Sloane, but I needed to buy time for the cavalry to arrive. Marissa Ashworth, Reed continues, you're under arrest for the attempted murder of Sloane Ashworth, conspiracy to commit murder in the death of Victor Ashworth, and attempted murder of Evan Pierce. You have the right to remain silent. Marissa's face has gone completely blank, all her careful masks stripped away to reveal nothing but cold calculation. She doesn't resist as an officer handcuffs her, doesn't speak as they read her rights. But as they lead her toward the door, she turns to look at Sloane one last time. You should have signed the papers, she says quietly. It would have been so much easier for everyone. Maybe, Sloane replies, but my father didn't raise me to take the easy way out. He raised me to fight for what's right. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows what you did to him. Then Marissa is gone, led away by police. And Sloane is alone in her father's office with Evan and Reed and a folder full of evidence that will bring down the woman who tried to destroy everything Victor Ashworth built. 3 months later, Sloane stands at the dedication ceremony for the Victor Ashworth Foundation for corporate ethics and whistleblower protection. The building is in Lower Manhattan, modest compared to Ashworth Tower, but significant in its purpose. 100 people have gathered for the opening. Journalists, activists, legal advocates, and survivors of corporate malfeasance who now have a place to turn for help. Marissa is in federal custody, facing charges that will likely keep her imprisoned for the rest of her life. The evidence from Victor's safe proved even more damaging than Sloane hoped. Emails, recordings, financial trails connecting Marissa to 3 other wealthy widows whose husbands died under suspicious circumstances before she moved on to Victor. She was a predator who specialized in marrying, manipulating, and murdering rich men, and Sloane's survival brought down her entire operation. Evan stands beside Sloane on the podium, his arm still in a sling but healing well. He's been invaluable in the transition, helping Sloane navigate the complexities of taking control of Ashworth Global Holdings, while also restructuring the company to align with her father's vision. More investment in sustainable energy, better labor practices, transparency in all operations. Are you ready? Evan asks quietly as the crowd settles. I think so, Sloane replies. She steps up to the microphone, looking out at the assembled faces. Some are familiar, most are not. But they're all here because they believe in what her father stood for, in the idea that power should be accountable, that truth matters, that one person standing up can make a difference. My father built an empire, Sloane begins. But more than that, he built it on the belief that success and ethics aren't mutually exclusive, that you can be profitable and principled, powerful and honest. His mistake was trusting someone who didn't share those values. My mistake was almost letting that person destroy everything he worked for. She pauses, gathering her thoughts. I survived something I shouldn't have survived. And in surviving, I learned that legacy isn't just about buildings and balance sheets. It's about the values you uphold, the people you protect, the fights you choose. This foundation exists to help people who find themselves fighting those same battles, people who discover corruption and need support, people who face retaliation for telling the truth, people who refuse to stay silent even when silence would be easier. The audience applauds. Sloane sees Rosa and Luis in the crowd, Maria beside them, and beyond them the dozens of other people who helped her survive and rebuild. Carlos, who drove her north. Reed, who believed her story. The nurses who cared for Evan. The journalists who refused to let Marissa's narrative go unchallenged. So, thank you, Sloane concludes. Thank you for being here, for believing that truth matters, for fighting the good fight. My father would be proud of what we're building here. I know I am. More applause. And then the ceremony concludes with tours of the facility and refreshments in the lobby. Sloane mingles, shaking hands and accepting congratulations, but her mind is elsewhere. She's thinking about that moment in the plane when Marissa pushed her into empty air. She's thinking about the terror and the rage and the cold determination that kept her swimming when every muscle screamed for her to give up. She's thinking about her father and hoping that wherever he is, he can see what she's become. Excuse me, Ms. Ashworth. A young woman with a notebook approaches hesitantly. I'm writing a profile about corporate whistleblowers for the Times. Would you have a moment to talk about what made you decide to speak out against your stepmother? Sloane smiles. I'd be happy to, but the answer is simpler than you might think. She tried to take everything my father built and corrupt it for her own gain. She tried to silence me, to erase me, to make me disappear. And I refused. That's all whistleblowing really is, refusing to let lies become the official version of truth, no matter how dangerous that refusal might be. The reporter scribbles notes. One last question. Are you afraid? Knowing that there are still people out there who might wish you harm, who benefited from the old system you're trying to change. Terrified, Sloane admits, every single day. But fear is just information, not instruction. It tells you there's danger, but it doesn't tell you to surrender. My father taught me that. And if his death taught me anything, it's that some things are worth being afraid for, some legacies are worth protecting, even when protection comes at a cost. As the sun sets over Manhattan, Sloane takes one last look at the Foundation building, at the name emblazoned on its front. Victor Ashworth Foundation. She thinks about empire and inheritance, about murder and survival, about the long road from that airplane door to this moment of triumph. She thinks about the girl she was 3 months ago, naive, uncertain, unprepared for the brutality of the world she'd inherited. And she thinks about the woman she's become, scarred but strong, wary but unbroken, ready to carry forward a legacy built on more than just money and power. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching. Stories like Sloane's remind us that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it, standing up when it would be easier to stay down, refusing to let injustice have the final word. If this story moved you, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to our channel for more powerful narratives about resilience, justice, and the strength of the human spirit. Leave a comment below telling us what you thought. We read every single one, and your engagement helps us bring more stories like this to audiences everywhere. Share this with someone who needs to hear Sloane's message today. That survival is possible, that truth matters, and that even when the odds seem impossible, one person standing up can change everything. Until next time, stay strong, stay curious, and remember, your story matters.